Number 10, approval of the minutes of the September 26, 2022 board meeting. Do I have a motion? Ms. Gardner,
I move that we approve the minutes of the September 26, 2022 board meeting.
do I have a second? Ms. Blackburn Hines, second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there are no opposed. And now we have public participation, which there were none for tonight, but I'm going to take a moment of privilege. Just maybe this is a good time because I know we're also online. I want to quote some of our, I'm not going to read the thing I read when they're going to speak, but I thought this was important to talk about just for the importance of decorum and how important our board meetings are. We have lots of students that attend, and we have good community members that attend, and I think it's important, and I know as chair, I'm responsible for enforcing the policy and proper decorum, or whoever is the chair. But board policy BEDH provides, and I quote, for any individual or group to be heard on a subject pertaining to the policies or administration of the school district. The policy further specifies, and I quote, the speaker will speak on the stated subject they reported on their form or a relative agenda item only, and speakers will not be permitted to cede their time to another speaker, end of quote. As such, public participation per BEDH does not apply to subjects that are personal in nature or not related to the policies, administration, or the agenda. In addition, orderly, and this is, I quote, orderly conduct of a meeting does not permit spontaneous discussion from the audience. And I just read that because, just for future meetings, because we'll always read the part about the 3 minutes and not attacking. But I think it's so important that we have civility and we can respect each other's different opinions. And this is a great forum, and we want our community to always feel free to sign up and speak to the agenda. With that, we do some voting here, action agenda. Action is necessary or appropriate on matters discussed in executive session. Ms. Huddle.
Ms. Hammond, I move that per agenda item 3A, at the request of the superintendent, I move that we enter into an agreement with Forensic Strategic Solutions for auditing services not to exceed $5,000 related to the current fiscal year.
Is there a second? I see a second. Ms. Blackburn Hines. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? And that is 5, and no opposed. Thank you. And there are others will entertain from executive session.
Yes, ma'am. Pursuant to item 3A also, I move that we approve the selected employment items shown in Exhibit A for action.
Is there a second? Ms. Huddle, second. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? And that is 5 with no opposed, so that motion carries. Any other motions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Under item 3C, I make the motion that the board approves the agreement for purchase of the property at 6040 Westcott Road, Columbia, South Carolina, as presented in executive session.
Is there a second? Ms. Huddle seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none. Those in favor? That is 1, 2, 3, 4.
Ms. Hammond, I'm going to abstain from this vote because I don't believe that I have adequate information.
Okay, and one abstention. And Miss, she told me I could explain this. Miss Moore did not want to leave us because she was excited about this, but now she's not here to vote. But it's very important. She had to pick up a child who was at a game that she was the only one to pick them up. But she was excited about this. So do you want to speak to it?
No, I have another
You have
motion.
another, okay. Well, that went 1, 2, 3, 4 votes with 1 abstention. And Mr. Hogan's not here. He had some minor surgery, and Ms. Moore had to pick up very important a child. Another motion.
Ms. Hammond, per agenda item 3E, I move that our board chair send a letter with the procurement examination and consulting Phase 2 report to the governor to request his review for consideration of requesting a review by the Office of Inspector General.
Is there a second? Ms. Gardner seconds.
Yeah, and I'll
Any
just
objection?
explain now.
Yeah,
We
we've already
voted
voted.
to send it to the OIG, but the state law recently changed, and you can't send it straight to the OIG. It has to go through the governor.
Thank you. All those in favor? And that is 5, and no abstentions and no opposed. So that is it, I think, for executive session, or do we have one more?
Well, I wanted to ask this because I had prepared a motion earlier for the plan to dispose of excess real property, but we didn't really get a presentation on that, so I won't make that motion. Thank you.
Yeah, we did have that in executive session, but you're right. So that will put us to 13, and that is approval of local board-approved course, senior internship course code 5499, offering for the 2022-2023 school year, Exhibit C.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board and our community. We return to the superintendent's report and our entry plan in terms of the workforce development goal as outlined at that time. Through our accreditation report was that the district look at workforce development programs. We talked about with the we saw from the Midlands Education and Business Alliance that 51% of South Carolina jobs require middle school workers, but there are only 29% that are in that area. We presented to you an objective of partnering with Midlands Technical College to provide these opportunities on the Harbison campus and for CTE dual credit, particularly in manufacturing and construction. I want to thank you all who came out and participated in that. In our work, what we find is that there are some easy pathways to receiving this certification and designation through dual credit with Midlands Tech, through the center and our completer systems. But we do find some gaps in terms of when there's a difficulty meeting that academic requirement, having funding sources. So what we wanted to do was look at addressing some of these gaps, particularly in our work-based first jobs program through our school internship. So at this time, I'm going to turn the mic over to Ms. Miller, our Chief of Academics and Administration, so that to explain the types of internships and why we need this course code for our internship.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Ross. And I want to thank Mr. Prigge as well for being here in the back, and Ms. Simmons again, and their work on this as well. So we brought it to you at our last board meeting discussing the need for the new course code there of 5499. First, I'd like to clarify, we had a couple of questions last week, so I want to make sure that we have those answers. One of those were, what were some specific courses? Ms. Gardner, I believe you asked that. What are we really talking about here? And so in our slide for this week, we created for you if you look at the senior internships, under types of internships, so really there are two types. The CTE work-based credit-bearing courses. And those are any that fall within those 16 CTE identified, state-identified courses. So there are some specific examples there that I gave you in agriculture, business management, and manufacturing. If you notice, that business management and administration number is 5490. So what we were running into is there are certain requirements for those CTE-based courses. I listed some of those for you. There's a whole sheet, front and back, of the requirements of those. What was happening is some of our first jobs did not meet all of those requirements, and so we are unable to use that 5490 course code. So we needed to develop a local board approved course and course code for those internships. So that's where the 5499 comes in. Now there are still requirements for that credit, for a senior internship elective credit, but those vary from the CTE work-based credits. So I gave you some to compare there. First of all, a requirement for the CTE is that it must be the fourth unit in that completer, in that pathway, okay? Some requirements for what we're asking the local board approved is any non-CTE senior internship may qualify. We have may there because there are other differences and other requirements. For example, it's 120 hours for the state. For us, it's a minimum of 40 practical experience hours. But those hours are actually determined by the employer and the school. Okay, so those can vary as well. That's why we have the minimum. And then for the CTE, it has to be aligned with that major, and they have to have already had 3 courses within that major. As far as the local board approved, it's related to their career interest or goals. So those are the primary differences. Like I said, there are some more differences in there. And then I know that you asked if a student could take it before their senior year. So as long as they're meeting some of those requirements. So for CTE, it is possible for a student to take it in their junior year, but they would need to have completed 3 units within that pathway. So at whatever point in their high school career they complete that, then yes, they qualify for that as their 4th unit, or they can take it simultaneously with their 3rd unit as well. And then for the local board approved, that hopefully you're going to vote to approve tonight, they just have to complete 1 unit within that pathway. So I wanted to be clear about those distinctions and differences tonight. Another question that you asked was soft skills. When are they getting the training with these soft skills and all of this? So soft skills are actually embedded in every CTE course. As a matter of fact, when you go to the state website or to our website and you link to the standards for those, you will find the 16 CTE career pathways, and then you will also find the standards for those courses. In the courses, part of those standards, the beginning, is personal qualities and employability skills. And so in every course, not just the internships, in every course, I happened to pull manufacturing, and this is welding. So some of those are punctuality, self-representation, work ethic, respect, time management, integrity, leadership. It goes on and on, a global perspective, lifelong learning, effective speaking and listening skills. So all of those are in those standards actually prior to the job-specific standards. So I wanted to be sure to clarify those points, and then to see if you had any other questions tonight. Again, what we're requesting is the approval of the local board-approved course, senior internships, $54.99, so that we can give elective credit for students who meet those requirements. And we currently do not have a course code for internships other than the CTE.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Any questions? I see none. That's great.
I have a motion to make.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, but no question.
No, ma'am. And I hope this is worded correctly, so if it's not, please correct me here. But I move that the board approves the course entitled Senior Leadership with course code 5499.
There a second? Ms. Huddle seconds. Any other discussion? Think you made it very clear. Thank you for answering those questions, Ms. Miller, from the last time. We appreciate your work.
Ms. Hammond, I think we might need to amend it. I think it's senior internship.
Oh,
I
in
think
his, what,
Mr. Levis said leadership, but I think it's internship.
internship.
Is that, the document you gave me earlier said senior leadership, but I didn't know senior internship, which one you want?
Whichever one it needs
It's
to be.
internship, senior
Okay.
internship.
Very,
Well,
I
that's a
stand
friend-
corrected then.
That's a friendly amendment. I
that
have a
is-
second. We'll vote on that. Change of one word. All those in favor? Okay, great. We'll go back to the original motion.
Okay, so I'll make the motion again.
Well, no, we've amended.
I'll read it again. Okay, I move that the board approves the course entitled Senior Internship with the course code 5499.
All those in favor? And that is 5 with no opposed. That carries. 14, approval of proposed revisions to 2016-2021 capital funds, Exhibit D. Mr. Wiseman, you did such a good job last time. We got it.
I'm always excited to be here and move forward.
That's right. It's
Madam
good.
Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Ross, members of the community, as we presented last time, back in October 2021, we presented with you a list of projects that we could utilize the 2016 through 2021 unspent capital monies to start working on some projects that members from the faculty committee presented to us. Dr. Ross and some of the schools themselves presented us some things that they would like to see done to their schools. So we started working on that actually last year. But as things have changed from October of last year to October this year, we've come back to the board and asked that we be allowed to reallocate that some of that money or re-identify it to not only complete some of those projects that came in under budget or over budget, but identify some other things that we found just in a short time and looking at some of the schools that we think are life support or life safety issues, so that we can start working on progressing through these issues as time and money presents itself. So what I presented with you before is that these are 3 projects that right now we do not wish to pursue at this particular point in time. So that gives us about $2.5 million that we can reallocate to start working on some of the things, again, that we've identified here recently. 2 of them are just some security issues, both at Irmo High School, Dutch Fork Middle. There's some ADA compliance that we've identified just because of additional student population in certain schools that we want to go back and address. 2 of those at Spring Hill and Seven Oaks actually were under budgeted. So this money will allow us to go back and complete those particular programs, and then also identify some additional needs at Dutch Fork Elementary that we want to address. This is the heart of what I really want to try to get into. This money will also allow us to begin looking at the vestibules that we talked about over the last year. It allows us to identify specific schools to start off with and start knocking or completing that list as it's been presented to us. There are about 12 schools. Right now, with the money that's available to us, we believe we can start those and complete those 4 schools in short order. And then also, while we're doing that, we want to go ahead and install some type of alarm systems on the exterior doors in those schools. And as money allows us, we will continue working with those projects within the guidelines of the school board policy, coming back to you hopefully with new ideas, a new request, allowing us to say, hey, this one came in under budget, so we want to identify another project that we can utilize that money with. So this is going to be an ongoing process. I want to make sure that you understand that we will come back to you with guidance and direction, working with the facilities committee and Dr. Ross, and start identifying things that we need to address with this particular capital money. We're still working on the 22, 23 capital projects too, but we want to go ahead and address these issues.
Thank you.
One of the things, if I could, just real quick, one of the things we want to go back and fix or make right, make it good, well, is to make sure that we identify items that we need to fix and fix right the first time. We need to upgrade the stadium speaker system at Dutch Fork High School, just because of the scope of the layout of that particular track is unique from Chapin and Irmo. So it's going to cost us a little money to put in the right sound system, as well as going back and addressing some deficiencies that we identified when we started working on the track. And then the last project that we want to identify is I'm paying huge rent in a sense to storage space, and what I want to do is create a small storage space where I can put all these files and boxes in, so I can identify that and make some office space out of it within the operational department. These are some of the things that we've already talked about looking at. Right now, again, we think there's going to be about $428 million or $1,000 toward the end of that. So again, we'll come back and reallocate that money or ask you to reallocate it. Some of those projects are already starting to come in a little bit under budget. So, hopefully that pot will grow, so we'll have more of an opportunity to get some additional things done. So subject to your questions.
Thank you. You did such a good job last time. I see you, Ms. Hines.
I just have a question on timeline, on when you think you'll be able to, how long do we think that it'll take to complete all of these projects? When are we prioritizing to have them done? When are they starting?
When you
I've already
give me
started.
the approval tonight, it starts tomorrow morning.
Okay.
We've already identified a group of folks within my department to address specifically. For example, I've got one lady who's just looking at marquees. I've got another individual who's looking at security systems. I got another individual or someone in his department to start getting RFPs as required and start getting plans together. So I want to start tomorrow.
We keep hearing about prices going up, so.
That's the other reason. The sooner I start, the
Yeah.
more bang for the buck I can get.
Absolutely. All right,
Good
thank you.
point. Good point.
I have-
Mr. Lovis, would you like to?
Yeah, one question and one observation or one request. The question is that it looks like all these vestibules that you've identified, now these are sole points of entry, and what the reason we're making those improvements is because we're interested in safety of our students inside the building. Is that the reason why we're doing this?
Yes, sir. We've had a member of the FBI come through our schools and look at some of our facilities. Some schools already have what I would call two-entry system. You look at Harbison West, you actually have to go into the front door. You're contained in a vestibule, if you will, before you can go into the second door to have access to the schools. So this is a very good way to identify and prevent unwanted personnel in your school. So we want to kind of make that the standard across the district. I looked at the elementaries first just because I could get more done with the least amount of money. And then again, as we go back and get a better understanding of costs on these projects, we might be able to come back probably in a couple months and ask that we do 2 or 3 more schools.
And the other thing I wanted to ask you to put on your list for at least the next year or following years, since I saw this thing about sound system here at Dutch Fork High School, also, we need to improve, enhance, or replace the sound system in the Fine Arts Center at Irmo High School. And I would like for you to look into that if you could, Dr. Ross. I know I'm not supposed to go directly to you, but
We actually met with Irmo High School, Jenny Garrison and myself and Alan walked through the facility and looked at what their needs are. So we've already started the discussion about that particular
well,
project.
thank you. That, your abilities are prescient, so I just thank you so much.
Mr. Wiseman, I'm
Thank you.
really so excited. I've been on the board 16 years, and I'm the most impressed with the fact you have a plan. It sounds very efficient, and we're able to see that, we have that rotation plan and that you're going to meet our needs.
Thank you. And if I could, just an alibi, I want to introduce our new student nutrition coordinator, Ms. Cote. She was here.
Come.
I just wanted her to say hi.
Come on up. Come on up. Join these guys.
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy. And you look so pretty. I like that. We welcome you. Yeah, that's fine. Would you like to say anything to us? We're just glad to have you.
Not really, but thank you for the opportunity to be here. I look forward to working with the staff. We had a meeting this morning that I thought was going to last an hour, and it lasted about almost 2 hours. But just looking at ways to improve, expand what's already set in place, and move forward.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're excited to have you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Ms. Wiseman?
No, ma'am, I'm ready to roll.
All right, ready to roll. Well, I really want a drum roll for the next thing because I wore.
Wait a minute, I have to make a
Can we
motion.
entertain a motion?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to get to Irmo High. It
Yeah.
just hit me. Yeah, well, I do need to.
Okay, under agenda item 14, I believe this is.
Yeah.
Uh,
14.
I make the motion that the board approves the reallocation of funding formerly allocated for the Kate composting equipment shed, the removal of 6 portables at the district office, and the conversion of the maintenance shop to fund $2,450,000 of projects shown in Exhibit D.
Is there a second? Ms. Huddle seconds. I think we had a good presentation, but anything else? Anybody got a question? If not, we will vote, and that is 5, and no opposition to that, and it carries.